Happy Friday to everyone. I get to host today Shokouh Shafiei, affectionately known as Sho. I am so excited. I had a brief conversation with Sho, and some of the words that we talked about and that she's going to talk about, I think will resonate with so many of us. Pivots, shifts, finding your strengths, impacts of people in your life. The one that hit me the most too, the value and challenge of giving and receiving feedback, especially as females. We don't always like that, and we don't always handle it well. But I think Show's going to hit on some topics that are going to really resonate with a lot of us. Let me just give you a brief, and I'm going to read it because I don't want to miss anything. Even though Show said I could skip it all, I'm not skipping a piece of this. She is the president and CEO of DSA Signage, brings more than 20 years of leadership experience across engineering, operations, supply chain, and heavy industrial manufacturing. If that doesn't sound like a good old boys network that she's functioning in, I don't know what does. But before leading DSA, she had multiple global leadership roles at Cummings. She holds a bachelor's and master's degree in electrical engineering from The Ohio State University and an MBA from Harvard Business School. So she's got technical as well as business acumen. She's known for building inclusive organizations, leading with clarity during times of change, and investing deeply in the growth of her people. Today, Show is just going to share some of her journey. This is going to be really casual. I encourage anyone, if you have questions or something Show says really hits a button, stop us. Put a note in the chat, put a question in the chat. We're happy to stop. We are recording the call, but we will stop the recording whenever we get into questions so that everybody feels comfortable that there's nothing, this isn't going to last forever. And then the end, there will be some time for questions as well. And I will also update you on our exciting Women's History Month coming up in March. So super excited. I'm going to kick it off, Show, and the stage is yours. Welcome to FWA.
Thank you. Thank you. Lynn, you are too kind. You, Julie, you guys make me sound so much better than I am in real life, but I appreciate it. And thank you. I'm so absolutely humbled to be actually speaking. I attend every meeting, listening to wonderful people. So to be on the other side of it is quite humbling. I know a lot of you based on the faces I see. Some of you I may not have met in person. Nice to meet you all. I know we have a time limit, so I'll keep it casual and just, I know this is supposed to be like learning from someone potentially, but please know there's also a little bit of vulnerability that's going to come out in this conversation. And I know this is a safe space, and I know it's not me airing my dirty laundry. It's just, I just want to be really transparent about my journey because it wasn't always easy. It's still not easy. So just a little bit about me. I grew up in Iran. I was born in Tehran. So the first 18 years of my life was in the Middle East. So being a woman in that environment is just a whole another story for another day. But just from like day one, essentially, I've had to battle to just find my spot. It's been something that's just part of life for me. So when I was 18, and I knew that I was different, I'm openly gay, for those of you who don't know. I left Iran. By myself. I went to Turkey, I got lucky enough to get a path to come to the US, and I started my journey in the US as a construction worker, as a day laborer, because when you don't speak the language, there are very limited jobs you can have. But while I was working at a job site, about a year or so into it, I came across a lady, an older lady who had hired the GC I worked for to do some remodeling. So with my broken English, she managed to ask me why an 18, 19-year-old girl is doing this for a living. Do I not have any dreams? And I told her, I said, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be an engineer. Like that was my dream. To either design cars or work for NASA. Those were my two dreams. That's what I thought I was going to do. She's like, well, I can tell you, you're not going to do that working in construction. So I didn't have a car. That afternoon, after our job site was finished, she gave me a ride to the local community college in north of Seattle and got me an application.
Thank you.
And told me what the cost was so I could start saving. It was $550 for a quarter. So I started saving, and that's how I got enrolled. I went to a community college at first. I started there and then followed the passion of math, physics, anything pre-engineering. Then I transferred to Ohio State on a full ride and got my electrical engineering degree that I always wanted. Worked on race cars and electric cars, and people thought we were absolutely insane 20 some years ago. God, I'm aging myself. 26 years ago, when I was working on a fully electric car, they're like, nobody's ever going to drive a fully electric car. Like, this is a waste of a degree. And then I briefly worked for Ford because, like I said, I thought I was going to work on cars. If it wasn't NASA, which, by the way, if you don't know, if your entire family is not a US citizen, you cannot work at NASA. So I learned that during the interview process. And so I got a job at Ford, and then I got a job at Nissan in Mississippi, and realized culture was really important. And those two cultures just did not work with me. I didn't fit in. It was truly a white boys world, not just men's world, white boys world, both in Jackson, Mississippi, and in Detroit, Michigan. So one of my professors reached out and said, hey, I know that you were thinking about potentially getting a master's. Would you come back? I said, in a heartbeat. Who's going to pay for it? He said, Department of Defense is putting up the funds. We're going to work on something called a fully autonomous vehicle. It's like, what does that mean? It's like driverless vehicles. This is 2003. So I quit my job and with no savings. I literally had no savings because I was still paying student loans. And the job at Ford and Nissan paid very little if you were a woman. You got paid, I think I was getting paid 40 some $1,000s a year, and the boys were getting in the 60s. We talked about salaries back then. So I went back. I got to work on fully autonomous vehicles. So if any of you have ever seen a Waymo running around, that's what I was doing in 2003, 2004. So I got my master's, being called absolutely insane again, working on something that had no future. And while I was in school, you've seen my name. It's kind of unusual. I mean, you look at it, if you've never seen my face, you don't know if it's a male or female. I could not get a single interview to save my life. So my career planner at Ohio State said, how do you feel if I put a different name on your resume just to see if we can get you interviews? It's like, I don't have another name. I don't have a middle name. Like, this is my name. She's like, does anybody ever call you anything? And jokingly, I said, yeah, the priest who baptized me calls me Priscilla because my baptismal name is Saint Priscilla. She's like, I'm going to give it a try. So she put Priscilla Shafiei on my resume. That 1 week, first week, I had 5 job interviews. I got 5 job offers, 100% success rate. So long story short, for 13 years, I worked at a wonderful company called Cummins. And last night, one of my old coworkers came to see me while I'm in Charleston. And it was so weird to hear him call me Priscilla. And I was like, nobody calls me that. Brian, stop calling me that. He's like, well, that's the only name I know. Like, I don't know you as Show. So for 13 years, just so I could get a job and fit in, I went by a name that wasn't even my name. But I happened to be working for a company that had truly an amazing culture, a culture of transparency, feedback, empowerment. And as you plan your career, just keep that in mind. Out of those 5 offers, Cummins was in the least attractive city. It was in Columbus, Indiana, If anybody's ever been there, it's a small town about an hour or so south of Indianapolis. And it had the lowest benefits package. The salary, everything else was at best 50th percentile. All my other offers were in better cities with a lot more money. But there was just something incredible about everybody I met throughout the interview process that just told me, this is me, this is home. And when I looked at the C-suite level, at the time, this was in 2004, is when I got hired at Cummins. Exactly 50% of the C-suite were female. In 2004, not a lot of companies in general had that many female um, uh, executives, but to think about a diesel engine manufacturing company having 50% female executives was quite a statement. I was like, okay, if they can do it, I can do it. So I can actually grow here. So my career really started at Cummins. And the first 2 years, it was like I was living my American dream. I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to work on engines and car related things. And I was doing it. And I was loving life. Then you get into the work, and then that's when like you get the phone calls from customers. And remember who Cummins customers are. Mostly white men named Bob driving trucks, semi trucks, or owning a fleet of trucks with their buddy Jeff or Chad, whatever you want to call him. There's a lot of Bobs. And they would literally call my boss and say, "You're not sending me some goddamn foreign chick to come and work on my engine. Send me a real engineer or I'm moving." And my manager would say, "Well, I wish you luck. She's the engineer. You're going to get it. You don't want her, you can go buy a Caterpillar," and hang up the phone. That's culture. That's support. That's sponsorship. That's somebody backing you up, standing behind you. That's building confidence. I had little confidence. I had no confidence. I was this little girl with an accent who may have had the smarts, but barely knew what I was doing. I had no network. I had no mentors. I had no group of executives or even like people that I went to college with. None of them went the route I went to call and say, "Hey, how's it going for you? Can we like exchange ideas?" I had none of that, but I had managers that stood up for me. So um, that's a point I want to really bring home. Please pay attention as you plan your career and you get multiple job offers. Go with the one that your gut says, "I'll be happy here." When the alarm goes off at 4, 5, 6 in the morning, I don't want to throw it on the wall or snooze 5 times. I'm excited to get up and go to work. Take that job. Even if it pays a little less, take that job. You'll find money elsewhere. Money comes and goes. But you cannot buy peace of mind with any amount of money. Fast forward, I thought I was going to be a lifer. I thought I was going to spend my entire career at Cummins. And I honestly thought I was going to do engineering work and stay in the technical field my entire career because I loved it. But less than 2 years at one of my year-end reviews, because I got hired in July, so my second year-end review was about 18 months. My manager sat me down to give me a review and told me how wonderful I was and blah, blah, blah. Then he's like, "Have you ever thought about being a manager? You're so much better at telling people what to do than doing it yourself." I looked at it. My initial reaction was like, "Are you telling me that I'm a terrible engineer?" He's like, "That is not what I said." I said, "Well, that's what I heard." He's like, "No, I'm saying when you lead a group, you do a really good job. Think about applying for one of the management roles." Um, Moral of that story, one, having a manager that watches for your career more than like, "Hey, this is a really good team member. I don't want to lose them." So important. Putting you ahead of what's good for them. So, so important. Two, being honest enough to tell you where your strengths are. Oftentimes, as leaders, we focus on what people's weaknesses are rather than focusing on like, this is something you're really good at. So rather than struggling and trying to do something you're not, change your path. that agility, being able to shift, can really change your entire path. If I was rigid and I was stubborn, which I can't be, and said, no, absolutely not, I want to be an engineer the rest of my life, I promise you, at best, I would have been maybe a middle manager engineering person at Cummins right now. But reflecting on what Andrew said and taking a chance on something I'd never done, managing people, taking a chance at going into a field that I'd never been, IT, because that was a position that was open. And saying, I'll figure out the rest later. Let me try this. Just completely shifted what I was doing. So think about a manager who's done that for you, that has given you an advice that was better for you than it was better for them. Those are the people you want to work for. Um,
Show, 1 second. I just have to take a breath. What
okay.
you just shared is absolutely amazing. Like you breeze through it like it's an everyday occurrence. I mean, a gay woman from Iran in electrical engineering. Um, I just have to take a moment and I just can't wait to hear what else comes out of your mouth. But that is absolutely amazing and you're so inspiring. So keep going, girl, please. I want to hear more.
Thank you. All in all, I think I spent about 13 years, a little over 13 years with Cummins. 13 wonderful years. That doesn't mean I didn't have bad days, doesn't mean I didn't have bad managers. I had all of them. But it was wonderful from a career standpoint. The one thing out of that 13 years that I can tell you is people, like, it's not often you find a manager like Andrew who's going to come and tell you what to do. A lot of times you got to ask for it. So you got to think about what it is you want to do and try to have more than one option. If you're like dead set on just one position, that may never come open, especially when you're in a really specific field. Um, Oftentimes the pyramid is really narrow and there is, like, maybe 3 layers, and the person on top may be doing that till retirement. If they don't leave, that means there's no opportunity for you. So place yourself at a base of pyramids that are interacting, interchanging. That way you have options. You can zigzag and move up. Because if you only have one option to move up, it's going to be really tough unless somebody retires or dies or goes to another company. Um, I learned from a really good mentor that I need to tell him what I want to do. And then he will tell me what my gaps are. And I have to commit to working on those. Otherwise, he can't do anything for me. Um, that person happened to be the COO of Cummins, who came for a visit when I was running one of the assembly lines at the turbo plant in Charleston. So there were like 5 lines. So naturally, 4 guys and me. And he toured every single line. Um, I, being a woman, being an engineer, I don't know why, but I had all my charts and graphs on a board ready to go through everything with them, from our production numbers to our cost savings to our quality. You name a KPI, I had it ready to talk to them. Like more than the 10 minutes I had to present my line. While he was flying back to Indiana on his private jet, he sends me the equivalent of a Teams message. Back then, I can't remember what it was called. And it's like, thanks for showing me your assembly line. By the way, do you have a mentor at Cummins? And I was like, why is this guy, like, I'm like a level 1 manager, like level 1. I'm like, why is this dude asking me this? I almost got up to go to ask my boss, like, why is this guy emailing me or texting me? But something in the back of my head said, don't. You might make people jealous. Just respond to him. I responded, said it was my pleasure, but no, I didn't. And I would love it if you recommended someone. So he did. He became my mentor. And then he assigned 2 people on his team to work with me one-on-one. And the first thing he said, when I asked about you from quite a few people. And everybody says you're really smart and hardworking, but they all say you're a little rough on the edges. I was so offended, so offended. So then he set up the call with me. And as we were talking, I was red, but I was trying to be polite and quiet. And he told me, he said, Priscilla, I'm going to tell you something. As a man, when I'm going into a meeting and I speak loudly, or if I firm, they walk away saying, man, Rich has some balls. Rich has backbone. When you go in and you raise your voice and you start being, firm about what you believe, they call you the B word. They'll say she's edgy, she's hormonal, he named it all. He like literally no filter, just named it all. It's like, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just telling you how the world operates. You can either fight it the rest of your career and keep doing what you're doing, or you can outsmart them and just phrase things differently and do it in a way that comes across as assertive, not aggressive. And I'm happy to assign somebody who's really good at that, and she's going to help you with it. That's how I got my long-term mentor. And she's a dear friend of mine. We still talk on a regular basis. Neither one of us is with Cummins anymore, but that piece of advice was harsh. It was so harsh. I cried. I was mad. I was angry. I knew exactly who told him. I knew which manager, which colleague. I knew it all. And I was pissed off. But somehow or another, I opted to just, you know what? Let me reflect on it. If there is even 1% truth in that statement, I got to address it. And at least this guy is willing to give me a chance. Most people would just say, next round of layoffs, you're on the list, or put her in a pit. That was our favorite thing. Put somebody in a pit. Um, from that point, I got promoted and promoted and promoted. And I was, towards the end of my career, I was running over $1 billion of revenue, running 2 giant facilities in Mexico for Cummins. I was doing restructuring. I had over 600 employees working for me. I was on top of the world, and my name was constantly coming up as the next big one, next big one. And at some point, we were closing one of our facilities that happened to be mine. And I was sitting in these financial reviews, and everybody was talking about, like, why it made sense to close my plant and let my people go. And I realized, I said, I have a gap. I may have grown within the company. I may have gotten promoted and people like me now. I have a reputation, but the last thing I want to do is sit in a room and feel less than smart. So I talked to my mentor and I said, confidentially, can I tell you something? She said, yeah. I said, I'm thinking when they repatriate me back to the US, which was that year, said, I think I want to go get an MBA. I feel like I'm missing the business piece. She said, I'll write your letter of recommendation. Do it. I applied for only one school. But some miracle I got in. I was 40 years old when I went to Harvard, the oldest MBA candidate they have ever had. The oldest. I take it proudly. But it was the best decision I made. That 2 years was tough, but I learned so many things I would not have learned in those management meetings, and it would have limited my career growth. I would have stayed at that executive level and never gone beyond to be in the C-suite. I had every intention of going back to Cummins. They had 11 job offers ready for me to pick my location, whatever the heck I wanted to do. And same mentor called me and said, I'm going to put on my friend hat. I'm going to take off my Cummins hat. This is your chance. Go do something different. You can always come back here. So for those of you who've been with your companies for a long time, you love the company, you love the culture, you think that's where you're going to retire. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but she really opened my eyes to what else is out there that I just don't know about. So I did. I started exploring and I had a few options, but ended up taking this role um, to run a much smaller manufacturing facility than I was used to running, but be the CEO of that company, be the decision maker for all aspects. And I took over right before COVID. So it wasn't the smoothest of transactions, you know. January 1st, 2020 is not exactly where you want to take over a company. But it was wonderful. It's been wonderful. But the path doesn't stop. I think the one thing I really want to emphasize, just because you get the title doesn't mean you're done. I'm not done. The first 2 or 3 years in this role, like I couldn't even meet with clients. I couldn't meet with any industry experts. I didn't know any of you people, none of you, because there was nothing happening. I wasn't part of a network. And it wasn't until by grace of God, I was put on stage with Miss Julie that I got introduced to a community. I am being serious. I met Julie by accident because I was a last minute add on. Somebody fell off of a panel and they asked me because I showed interest to sit on it. If I hadn't met Julie, I wouldn't know most of the people I know in this industry. So find yourself a Julie, especially if you're changing from company to company or field to field, literally and theoretically, find yourself a Julie, find a sponsor, find somebody who's been in the industry and knows how it works, who's going to give you advice. I have Julie, I have Susie Sai from Bonchon. These ladies literally lift me up. I have bad days, I have terrible days, I have, you know, good days. And they'll hold you. I can call any of them any day and say, you think you got 10 minutes? Because I'm lost. And they have never said no. So find your Julies out there. But here I
I
am.
saw I saw that. I have to interrupt. I saw that Julie Love coming out there, Julie Swift. Find yourself a Julie. I think everyone here show completely agrees with that. Find yourself a Julie. I just have to call out two things or three things that I hear from you. Fearlessness, absolute fearlessness. It's so inspiring, but also self-aware. You seem so self-aware and authentic, and have kept that through your journey, but also your openness to hear that. How many of us take that feedback, and even though he meant it in a positive way, we all take it like, I thought I was
Mhm.
good. Like, you're going to point out the one thing that's wrong with me, and it can take us down when we have
Mhm.
that. So very impressive
Absolutely.
show. Very I'm watching the chat and hearing people are texting me like, you're blowing us away. So keep going. It is 1:30, so I don't know if
Yeah.
at some point we want to transition to questions, but if you want to maybe go a little bit longer show, and then we'll put it in the
Um,
chat or for some questions.
I honestly, so I've been in this role now for 6.5 years. In addition to like being a CEO and running a whole company, another piece of learning for me has been running a company that's private equity backed, PE backed. They are different. It's different running like a family business versus like a PE owned business or a VC funded business. Being able to navigate the different environments. I now have to report to a board rather than help my boss put a presentation together. I'm the one that has to talk about the strategic long-term pieces. Like it's not, you're no longer responsible just for you. Yes, I have a mortgage and I got a family to take care of. I got cats and dogs that would probably poke my eyeballs out if I didn't have money for food. But I'm responsible for 50 other families. So the decisions that I make will have impact well beyond me and my immediate family. So making every decision with that in the back of your mind and the fact that you're managing essentially someone else's money. I'm one of the owners of the company. I definitely took equity before I took this job, but there are other owners that I'm responsible. So my decisions mean them, their investment returning a profit or their investment dying. So the pressure is a lot higher. The higher you go, not to scare anybody from growing, go to the moon, go all the way up. You would love it. Um, the pressures are higher, the stakes are higher. You have probably more sleepless nights thinking about not you, but thinking about to that person and that person. If I make this decision today, what's gonna happen in 6 months? If I say no to this client and they walk away and go to my competitor, what does that mean for the business? There is a lot of interlocking elements that you gotta consider. So be honest with yourself. What is that? What is it that you love doing? What is your capacity? Um, do you think you can have, a heavy travel life? Do you think you can jump out of your seat and get on a plane if your number one client calls and say, I absolutely need you in my office tomorrow? Is that feasible for for your family? Like, please consider a lot of things beyond just the financial package you're being offered when you're looking at new jobs. Um, and make sure it's worth it. Look at the ROI. Not every promotion has a positive return. But I'm going to stop. I think I've said a lot. I'm happy to go into any piece of it one-on-one with anybody who's interested to hear more, or they really want to hear less. I'll quiet up.
I have one before we open up to everybody else, and I'm sorry, I don't want to hog the thing here, but I'm so intrigued. What would you say to the young girl who hopped on the plane and arrived here with those big, crazy dreams, looking back now to who she was and who you are? Like, what a journey show.
Gonna sound silly, but I had $80 in my pocket when I came, and FOMO. I was on a TWA flight, which doesn't exist anymore. Some of you might remember it. And I saw everybody around me ordering a headphone to watch a movie. I I paid five out of my $80 to get a headphone to watch a movie I didn't understand, just because I wanted to fit in an environment that I clearly didn't fit in. Um, it's not about the $5, but you're gonna find yourself in places that you see other people doing a lot of things and you don't want to be left behind. I would tell myself, focus on what you want to do and stop looking at what everybody else is doing around you.
Ah, I love it. I love it.